lot in sports media, on podcasts, talk shows, and articles, and so on. And sometimes it's just exactly that. It's just talk, and then the teams go out on the field, and those narratives go out the window, and you can completely forget about them, and the game just writes a different story. But then there's other weekends and other Saturdays at certain stadiums across the country when those narratives, well, man, they are just sitting on you like a 3-ton elephant is just suffocating you, and you can't escape them. They ring true and hold true, and we saw that in multiple venues across the country this weekend. Welcome in. It's College Football Tailgate. I'm Dan Watkins. John Mckechnie is here with me. John, I'm not going to pick at you right away, but I know it was a tough weekend. How you holding up, man?
I'm Pedro Martinezing right now. I just got to say, the Crimson Tide are my daddy.
Tip your hat and call him your daddy. There you go.
There's no other recourse. Georgia, this is like the final, gemstone in the or Infinity Stone or whatever, where it's like Georgia can't beat the Tide in Tuscaloosa, they can't beat them in Atlanta, and then they can't even do it in Atlanta. It doesn't matter, or in Athens. It doesn't matter who the coach is for Alabama. Kirby Smart's going to find a way to lose that game. And the narrative about Bama kind of owning Kirby Smart, that's one that is not only unchanged, but like it fortified beyond the point where I don't think Kirby can ever really get out from under that. Like they would have to win so many games in a row against Alabama to even come close to getting the pound of flesh off of them that Alabama's certainly taken off of the Dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to your point, too, it's like literally like with Doctor Strange at the end of Endgame where he's like holding up the 1 in 14 million, and that 1 in 14 million just happens to be in Indianapolis, Indiana, in this case.
Thank God for that one. Otherwise, I don't even know if I'd be doing this podcast. I'd be like, you know what, I think college football is not for me.
Right? I mean, that's a big one, though. Kirby, 1 in 7? But that is a big one that he can always have with him forever. So let's put a pin on that. We will get to that Georgia and Alabama game. But where I want to start today, I want to talk about what happened in Happy Valley at State College over the weekend. Oregon 30, Penn State 24, double overtime. We talk about narratives. We threw this stat out there. James Franklin falls flat once again. Now 4-21 in his career against AP top 10 teams. This one, though, John, might have been the most painful because at the end of the third quarter, like I'm starting to like write my notes down for like what I want to talk about on the show on Monday and stuff like that. And I'm getting ready to just praise Oregon's offensive and defensive line. They controlled the line of scrimmage, and it really felt like in the start of the second half, especially in that third quarter, that they were just leaning on Penn State and getting yards when they had to. Dante Moore, awesome, cool, calm, collected, poised, all those terms. Going to get to more on him in a little bit. But then all of a sudden, like Penn State, out of nowhere, like Katron Allen starts ripping off a couple big runs. Drew Aller makes one very nice throw that was had a very pretty arc to it for the touchdown there. And then Penn State is tied at 17-17. We go into halftime, we go to overtime, and then we get into overtime, and Penn State does score on their first possession. Oregon ties it. Oregon then takes the lead in the second OT. And then it was just, to go back to our Endgame Avengers reference, like Drew Aller, Thanos, I am inevitable, except for in Drew Aller's case, here comes the just back-breaking, spine-crushing interception that was just awful, and Oregon walks out there with a win. Dan Lanning, I thought Dan Lanning was going to cry in his post-game press conference. He was so amped up. I just wanted to share this quote from him, and then I'll get to your thoughts on this game. So Lanning just, quote, "We just talked all week about getting a cut. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Eventually that cut was going to be a jugular, and that last interception was a jugular." Summing it up very nicely, the head coach for Oregon there. But your thoughts as just once again Penn State just comes up short.
I think I got to just stop caring about continuity because I think I was so drawn to both Penn State and Clemson because I know these Jimmies and Joes. These guys have been here for a while. They seem like they're pretty good, and everyone else.
You were in the playoff a year ago.
Thank you. And in Oregon's case, it's like, okay, you lose Dylan Gabriel, you bring in a new running back in Mekhi Hughes. Evan Stewart's gonna end up missing the whole season. You're gonna have to lean on true freshman DeCorian Moore as like the main guy. Now that Tez Johnson's gone, I put way too much stock into those losses, and I just kind of rubber stamped the idea that it's like, okay, progress is linear. Like this is a Penn State team that Drew Aller's entering, his third, fourth year as a starting quarterback. They've got, what is supposed to be one of the best backfields in college football. They're going to have a great defense as well. It's like, man, this sets up really well for Penn State. And we talked about it over the summer. This sets up great for that. Like getting Oregon at home for the whiteout game. It's like, man, this Oregon team's talented, but like that's going to be, a huge challenge for the Ducks to go in there. And ultimately, the song remains the same for Penn State and Franklin. It's a very frustrating spot to be in when you're just good enough to have everyone's attention, but not quite good enough to get over the hump. And, the noise just keeps getting louder and louder and louder when it comes to this Penn State team coming up small in the big moments.
So James Franklin at his post-game press conference, quote, "I get that narrative," talking about his struggles against top 10 teams. And it's really not a narrative. It's factual. It's the facts. He would go on to say at the end of the day, we've got to find a way to win those games. I take ownership and I take responsibility. And it's great, but it's just lip service at this point. You got to do it. Like something is just wrong when it comes to that program, that they just can't get over that hump. And that game eventually, it was there for the taking Saturday night. Like they had the chance to do it. They just couldn't get a stop when they needed to. And Drew Aller, I'm starting to feel bad, as much as I dump on this kid at this point. It's just so underwhelming and just so predictable at this point. Like I said, haven't I said multiple times as we've been doing this show that he's what's going to hold them back ultimately. He just does not have the it factor, so to speak. The clutch gene is not there. Todd McShay did a fantastic breakdown on him over this past weekend when it comes to him as a draft prospect, too. Highly recommend checking that out on his channel. Just the people who I watched Drew Aller, and he's a big dude. And he's got pretty good arm strength. I mean, the sidearm and all that kind of stuff, some people geek out on and get off on. I don't really care for that. I think Patrick Mahomes Mahomes is 101, and he can do that stuff. When I see other prospects trying to do that, I don't like it, that stuff. But Aller he doesn't move very well, and obviously, I don't trust him whatsoever with the ball in his hands at the end of the game. Really just another underwhelming stat line from him. And you contrast that with Dante Moore. Wow. Dante Moore, absolutely incredible. I was so impressed with him. 29 of 39, 248 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, in control of that game, never once seemed flustered. And he is now your Heisman favorite, by the way, after that game. So, Dante Moore, I'm watching that, how he goes into that environment, and, it was awesome to see. And, if he's going to play like that, it makes me take Oregon much more seriously, where, in the past, you think of Oregon, when they get to the final step and that final exam with them, they've been coming up short so many times throughout their school's history. But if Dante Moore is going to look like that and be able to handle those kind of environments, I'm feeling much better about Oregon here going forward. Curious how you feel about Dante Moore, because he was someone who was on your not so nice list heading into the season.
Yeah, I thought that he was the latest of these 5-star quarterback recruits that was gonna kind of flame out. I didn't think that he looked great at UCLA. I don't think anyone thought he looked that great at UCLA. Mm-hmm. But Oregon smartly just kind of took him under their wing, had him sit and develop behind Dylan Gabriel last year, so he was going to be comfortable with this system coming into the season, and he's able to operate it perfectly. It feels like it's tailor-made for his skill set, and he's really kind of maximizing the potential that a lot of people were really buying in on during his days as a high school recruit. So with him being the difference maker that he is, I think Lanning's always going to have that defense ready to rock. That is his bread and butter. So ultimately, this Oregon team, I think you got to take them so much more seriously now. I think that they're very much in the mix of being a true national title contender now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one other thing too with Oregon, going back to that offensive line, they were great. They kept Moore clean the entire game, allowing him to be that in control. And you just think what we were saying about J.J. McCarthy a couple of years ago, right? When Michigan goes in there and then they literally don't have him throw the ball the entire second half. They just hand off. It was 23-24 in a row. I know part of that was because Chop Robinson was pretty much unblockable that day. But at the same time, the trust that Lanning and this offensive staff have in Dante Moore here going forward, I think, is also huge when they get to these bigger spots. So Oregon goes on the bye. They have Indiana at home coming up in a couple of weeks here on October 11th. That will be a fun one for sure. And then for Oregon, and after that, it's kind of smooth sailing until we get to like Big Ten championship game kind of thing. And for Penn State, well, you put this on our rundown here. You got a month to figure it out and get going and get this offense into the high gear. Like, that was something we talked about going into this game too, that like, yes, Penn State was having all these lopsided wins against these cupcake schools and opponents, but like, they didn't look quite right. And if I'm a Penn State fan, I'm not feeling any better after that game Saturday night.
No, you flunked your first test with the best conditions that you're going to have. I mean, you're at home at night, crazy fans, all that stuff, and it still ultimately didn't matter. So you have, this next month or so to get things cleaned up, to learn that lesson. I don't think the book is totally written on Penn State just yet, but I do think that, I think at once the Franklin stuff is very much real. I was willing to kind of see if Aller could take that next step forward, but he continues to do more of the same. We talked about his stats in big games against, I think, like top 20 opponents since he took over the starting job, and just largely extremely underwhelming, barely getting over 50% of his passes completed, and like almost never even at 6 yards per pass attempt. Yeah. So just like inaccurate, inefficient in these big moments, and I'm going to continue to. I think I'm picking up what you're putting down as far as being an Aller doubter.
Yeah, it's something's not right there. I mean, I hope for his sake he figures it out. But right now, going into that Ohio State game, I think over a month out, I'll be back in the Buckeyes. That's for sure. Yep. In Columbus, and probably handedly in that one. And I think that could ultimately lead to a fascinating conversation down the road. I mean, can't you just picture this? A 10-2 Penn State and a 10-2 Notre Dame, that conversation. Like, that just feels like we're going to have that conversation at some point, right? Like, Notre Dame's got their 2 losses against Miami and A&M, and then Penn State's got their 2 against Oregon and Ohio State. Like, I can see it. I can see it on ESPN on game day, on college football final, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh boy, I'm not ready for
like, that's just going to be the most annoying. It's coming. Just brace yourself. But anyways, and speaking of brace yourself, John, I'm going to give you like 30 seconds. I'll talk about our social media channels here so you can compose yourself, get your words ready, because we do have to talk about your Georgia Bulldogs here in a minute. But anyways, if you guys have been watching this season, or if this is the first time you're watching that show, welcome. Thank you very much for watching. Do us a favor. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We're at College Football Tailgate on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Leave us a review. Hit that 5-star as well. It just helps us as we grow the channel and try to grow this show here. It doesn't cost you anything. It just helps us. You can find us on Twitter at CFB Tailgate 25. You can also find us on TikTok at CFB Tailgate, where there is always just so much fun going on in the comments section. And then you can find John at Johns_Tailgate on Twitter, and me at Dan Watkins Radio. Those are all of our social channels. But once again, thank you very much for watching and or listening as we get further and further into College Football Station. All right, it's time. We got to talk about this. Alabama 24, Georgia 21. A wire-to-wire win for the Crimson Tide in Athens. Georgia, to me, John, it just felt like they struggled to get off the field on defense. Alabama was able to get yards whenever they needed. And like whenever Alabama needed something, whether it was a first down, a score, or to get off the field and get a stop, they got it. Like I don't really know how else to sum this game up. One other thing I will point out too, the third downs here. Alabama, 13 of 19 on third down. Georgia, just 2 of 8. In time of possession, Alabama with over an 11-minute advantage on time of possession. 35 and a half minutes for the Tide holding the football compared to just 24 and a half for Georgia. And I know Georgia was able to hit some big plays in this one, but it just, the entire night just felt like, oh man, like Alabama's got this. So yeah, please, the floor is yours.
It was a dominant, despite it only being a 3-point margin, I thought that Alabama largely dominated that game. The 13 for 19 on third down really tells you a huge part of the story in the time of possession detail as well. Back in the day, Mark Richt era. The fans used to sardonically say it's third and Grantham. Because the Georgia third down defense always was underperforming when Todd Grantham was there. Third and Schumann is the new thing because this is a defense that it's not creating havoc whatsoever. It's not getting stops whatsoever, as we saw. And I think that there is an element of Kirby Smart. Like, clearly he gets a bit puckered in these games against Alabama.
A little tight.
Real tight. And it just permeates to the rest of the team. I mean, you go back to the 2023 SEC championship game. Georgia was a better team that year on balance, but Bama still got it done when they needed to. Obviously, last year kind of did the double whammy of blowing Georgia out completely in the first half and then letting Georgia come back only for Georgia to get its heart ripped out with that pick by Carson Beck at the end. So this is just another chapter and what has been a complete one-sided domination of this rivalry. It's heated, it's real passionate on both sides. But Alabama's got all the wins over this Georgia team for the most part, other than that national championship in 21. And yeah, I think ultimately this defense for Georgia is what's really kind of holding them back right now. I know that like Gunnar Stockton didn't have like amazing stats in this game, just 13 for 20. They did maybe find their answer in the backfield with Chauncey Bowens. He's looking good, almost 10 yards a carry against the Tide. But ultimately, when a play needed to be made, I think you said it perfectly. Bama always made it. On Saturday night, and that's why we have yet another win for the Tide against the Dogs in this series.
What was so strange about this one, too, was that Alabama pretty much let Georgia have whatever they wanted on the ground. So Georgia ran for over 220 yards in this game, ripping off almost 7 yards per carry, and they lost. So going into, I did some research and dug this up, and this is on our Twitter page at CFB Tailgate. Georgia had won 52 straight games when running for more than 200 yards going into Saturday night. The last time the Tide had lost was in 2016 against Georgia Tech when they had ran for over 200 yards and could not come away with a win. It was just fascinating to me how Georgia could do that, yet still not get the ball in the end zone enough. And you point out Stockton's stat line, I don't really have any takeaway about Gunnar Stockton really in this game because he wasn't asked to do that much. And I think if I told you Friday, John, that Georgia was going to have 220 rushing yards and ripping off 6.9 yards per carry, you'd sign up for that, I think, in a heartbeat. Just sign your life away. Yep, I'll take that. Sure. But it's just really strange that Georgia just couldn't finish off drives, it felt like, and Alabama could get stops when they needed to ultimately.
Yep. So the Tide are just mentally tougher than Georgia is, especially when these two are squaring off. We saw Alabama, kind of lackluster performance in week one against Florida State. Got a little bit ambushed, but they've looked great since then by and large. And Georgia, meanwhile, they got their kind of signature win against Tennessee earlier on, but I was saying it before the season that I had Georgia on disappointment watch, and I think this was step one. I think they have games against Ole Miss. Auburn is going to be tricky. Auburn is going to have a bye the week before that. Even going to Starkville, as we saw with Tennessee, that's going to be a tricky spot. And there's a chance that Georgia Tech is undefeated by the time that they square off over Thanksgiving weekend. So there's easily 2 to 3 more losses here potentially for Georgia, especially if the defense can't get out of its own way.
And let's get a little temperature check here on these two quarterbacks in these games, because these two have both been pretty hot button, hot topic issues here. Ty Simpson, I thought, was excellent Saturday night, going 24 of 38, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns. Really good. He is now the second favorite behind Dante Moore on your Heisman board right now. And then Gunnar Stockton, as you mentioned, just 13 of 20, didn't really have to do all that much. But where are you at with these two quarterbacks here post-week 5?
Yeah, Simpson's a difference maker. I think Alabama, as constructed, they're not going to be able to run the ball this year. But I do think that with the offensive line that they have and the group of receivers that they have, that this is really kind of a nice tailored offense for Ty Simpson to be able to put up those Heisman level numbers. And I think that Alabama is going to be a real dangerous offense every single week. The rest of the way, it's not going to run so hot and cold the way that it did when Jalen Milroe was back there. I think Simpson is kind of the steadying presence who can, he has enough athleticism and escapability to just kind of extend plays and then just hit a shot deep down the field. And he's very poised, very composed. So I think Simpson, he's going to give Alabama a chance to win every single week. And as far as Stockton goes, yeah, it's an incomplete grade largely. I think that the offensive game plan was smart in the sense that if you're going to be able to pick up chunk yardage on the ground, you continue to follow that. But yeah, Georgia ultimately bad on third down on offense in their own right. I think just 2 for 8 or something like that. So I don't know. It's hard to really know exactly what's up with Gunnar Stockton right now in this Georgia passing game overall, and really the offense generally. I mean, I know I was singing Chauncey Bones' praises earlier, but it feels like there's no real offensive identity for this Georgia team right now.
Yeah, I mean, every week I feel like you have a guy like Zachariah Branch, in your offense, in your huddle, you should be getting him the ball as much as possible. I feel like, especially in games like this against these kind of opponents, he is just such a Swiss Army knife that you can do so much with him that I would love to see Georgia unlock him a little bit more. And we saw him have some nice flashes against Tennessee a couple of weeks ago. And then on the other side, you mentioned the Bama running game. Yeah, they didn't really put up that great of numbers. And if the box score, I feel like, could almost be a little misleading because Jam Miller did return. And I know he didn't put up crazy stats or anything like that, but I do think he added another element to this Alabama offense that you do have to account for him at least. And he was able to pick up some big first downs down the stretch there and get some yards and move the chains when they needed him to. And I think that's a huge plus and helpful and something very helpful for Ty Simpson, who definitely stock up right now when it comes to Ty Simpson, looking pretty good. And then the final note that I have about this game, Kalen DeBoer now 7-0 in his career against Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian, and Dan Lanning. Very impressive. Now, on the other side, have been some slip-ups, and there could be. I'm fascinated with what's coming up this weekend in Week 6 because Vanderbilt heads to Tuscaloosa. Diego Pavia, Jason, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, whatever you want to call him, the Grim Reaper. That's going to be great to break down. And, of course, it's already steamed so much. This line, I think it reopened at 12:30 Sunday morning, and it's down to 9:30 already.
That's right.
We've already, in 24 hours, we've seen a field goal's worth of movement.
And I think SP Plus has Bama only winning by 2. So
really,
yeah. So that's fascinating. And this was, and we'll get to it more on the preview show later this week. But I think this was the exact weekend last year that was the ultimate bloodbath. It was the Vanderbilt game,
Yep.
Tennessee losing to Arkansas. I'm sure I'm missing one or two others in there, but yeah, beware the
Yep.
Ides of October, because this weekend may not have the haymakers that we did this past Saturday, but that's when you least expect it. That's when the crazy stuff can come.
Absolutely. And as we always talk about, especially now in this era that we're in, there's no such thing as a sleepy Saturday in college football. So we will, of course, get to that on Thursday when we do our Week 6 preview show. So stay tuned from that. But now it's time to do a little grill it or chill it. It's our take on your stereotypical, generic sports talk, in or out, hot or cold, that kind of thing. We're going to do a little grill it or chill it here, John. And I think we got to start right with the obvious one. And here's my first question for you. If Penn State comes up short again this year, when they come up short, they should look for a new head coach. Grill it or chill it?
I'm grilling it because we have too many years now of sample with James Franklin, getting them to right on the precipice of getting over the hump, but always falling short. And I know that the reflexive response is going to be who are you going to hire? Who's better than him? I think that there's a cumulative scar tissue here that starts to accumulate when it comes to Franklin and the mentality of just always disappointing when the chips are down. So I think Penn State is a remarkably attractive job. I think that they can get almost anybody that they would want. I think that the university itself and their NIL is clearly stocked to the coffers. Like, they are going to be able to field it, an elite program from a talent perspective. So they just need, I think they need a new voice there if this is just another season, because, again, part of the reason I like Penn State so much coming into the year, it's like, man, they've got everybody back to make this run. And first time they get tested, they fail that test, and now they just, again, have to sit in it for a month until that Ohio State game that they're almost inevitably going to lose again. So if I'm a Penn State fan, I'm tired of this particular act, and I think I want something else, even if it sounds a little bit spoiled.
So, I'm a little conflicted here. I do think they probably should go a different direction, but what do I think is ultimately going to happen? I think James Franklin's going to be the head coach in 2026, so I'm going to chill that for that reason. I mean, he's probably going to have his 4th straight year with at least 10 wins. There aren't many guys that can do that in the country, and I don't know where they're going to find that guy to just kind of throw that, who are they going to get that's better at you right now? Because, I don't know who that option is. But he's got them right there at the doorstep. He just can't get over the hump. And I don't know, maybe they need some better coordinators or something like that, but that's kind of just passing the buck off to someone else and stuff like that. Ultimately something is not right, and something in these big games just always goes wrong, and they just can't find their footing, and they end up coming up short. But I don't know, I don't look at Penn State like I look at an Alabama or a Georgia or a Texas or something like that, where I don't know, I feel like 10 wins and another trip to the playoffs, that's pretty good for Penn State. Penn State, he has them right where they should be. They just can't get to that next step for some reason.
Well, and, it gets doubly or triply frustrating when it's your rivals or other teams that have been knocking on the door have since kind of gotten over the hump since Penn State started to, kind of be operating at this level, whether it's Clemson winning a national championship for the first time in 35 years or so, Georgia doing that, and then Michigan, of course, getting their first one since the 90s as well. So it's just all those other teams that you're kind of lumped in with until further notice, they're getting over the hump, and you're just, song remains the same. I'm sorry.
All right, next up, game we haven't talked about yet. Ole Miss takes down LSU 24-19 in Oxford. No one takes a victory lap like our guy, Uncle Lane. I mean, he is still, it's Monday afternoon, about 2 o'clock that we're recording this, and Lane is still talking his smack right now. It's great. He is subtly taking jabs at Brian Kelly all over the place, which I absolutely love. He is posting pictures of his quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, as a kid with Brian Kelly, from a long time ago. I mean, Lane has just had some great moments here in the last 48 hours since they pulled off this win. As he said in his post-game press conference, a little short kid from D2 going against Nussmeier and the mighty Tigers offense. It was awesome, and it sure was. Trinidad Chambliss was awesome. I don't know how else to put it. 314 passing yards, 71 rushing yards. LSU just did not have an answer for him. Harold Perkins was kind of non-existent. Didn't really see much of him this week. Whit Weeks, who with everything talking about him going into this game, going against his new girlfriend's dad for the first time, is literally throwing up on himself on the field. Yeah. Brutal look, by the way, when you're going against your girlfriend's dad in any sort of competition for the first time. But LSU had no answer for him, John, and that's my question here coming out of this game for you is if and when, when Austin Simmons is fully healthy, Ole Miss needs to stay with Chambliss as their starting quarterback. Grill it or chill it.
I'm grilling it. I think Chambliss has something cooking here that's special, and I know that we were so anticipating Austin Simmons, having this great season, but we were kind of largely basing it off of literally just one drive last year. But it was enough to get people excited about Austin Simmons. But Chambliss, why would you go away from this right now?
Right.
The team is obviously responding to him, and he's obviously balling out in his own right. The coach loves him, of course, too. So I don't know how you kind of put that toothpaste back in the tube. I feel badly for Simmons to kind of lose out on this opportunity at Ole Miss due to an injury. But, like you said last week, I believe it was, Lane Kiffin, Austin Simmons, when he's 100%, is going to be our quarterback. I just think he's going to be at 99% until further notice. So I think as long as this is rolling with Trinidad, you got to keep it going if you're Ole Miss.
Absolutely. I mean, how could you not? I mean, we were talking about LSU possibly being the best defense in the country going into this game, and Chambliss leads the Rebels offense to almost 500 yards against them. I mean, he was incredible. Like, you could that I feel like if they were to take him out of the lineup, that would just be so crushing for this team, like momentum wise and like mindset and all that kind of stuff. And all due respect to Austin Simmons, who was looking good as well. Simmons, though, was turning the ball over a little bit early on in games, too, where Chambliss has not been doing that. He's been taking care of the football much better. Now, this is going to be really, like, wait and see in a couple weeks after Ole Miss goes to Georgia and Oklahoma in back-to-back games. That's going to be huge here. But, like, right now, like, you don't mess with this. Like, you don't mess with success when this is going the way it's going. And like, I'm all in on Ole Miss right now. I love it. Like, talk your smack, Lane. I keep forgetting, like, I've heard nothing but great reviews about that documentary that came out at the end of last week, too, the E60. I got to check that out. But, like, I'm loving what's going on in Oxford right now. How could you not? And, like, Ole Miss, I believe they're ranked number 4 in the AP, which is, like, their highest, like, ranking in the last 15 years, too. So things are going quite well down there.
Who thought that they could possibly top the high highs of the Bo Wallace era? But here we are.
Here we are. All right, so the other side, we do have to talk about what happened with LSU. Can we be concerned about the offense now, Brian? Is it okay? Can we ask questions about what is going on with your offense? Because once again, it's just you're stuck in the mud, not going. Ole Miss, when playing power, they have 3 games against Power 4 opponents this season. Here are their point totals, John, on offense. 17, 13, 19. Not good. When it comes to Ole Miss, yes, they are 4-1, but still, like, something's just not right with this offense right now, whether it's Nussmeier's health. I know they were a little bit banged up on the offensive line. They were missing their starting right tackle against Ole Miss on Saturday. Yes, Caden Durham was missing as well. He did not play. We talked about him possibly being an X factor in this game. He doesn't play. Ole Miss just doesn't really get anything going, and throw those Louisiana Tech, Southeast Louisiana games out the window because they mean absolutely nothing. They don't mean a damn thing. So I'm capital C concerned about the LS offense, but what about you? Grill it or chill it? Time to be really concerned about LSU.
I'm grilling that. I think in today's game, you need to be able to keep up on the scoreboard. I think having an explosive offense is kind of a large, more often than not, like an absolute necessary pillar for any sort of contending team. And it doesn't feel like LSU has, and it feels strange, like they have really talented pieces everywhere. Like I could name off like 10 guys from this offense that I'm like, yeah, this guy's an absolute dude, and it's not translating. So, as far as LSU goes, I don't know if it's like the schematic structure or if like Nuss is just a little bit more limited than what they've let on, and he's really battling through some stuff. They were talking about his knee over the summer, oblique, that's going to make throwing pretty uncomfortable, I'd imagine. But no matter what, we have a loss now if you're the Tigers, and you got to press forward with the rest of the season. But I don't know if this defense it's good. It's very good, but is it enough to overcome an offense that is anemic, that you can't even count on to score 20 points when you need it? I think that's a concern. So, yes, legit concern for this LSU offense.
Absolutely, and I know Durham was out, but the running game was non-existent on Saturday. They averaged under 3 yards per carry against a run defense that you should be able to get some yards on and take advantage of, and they just couldn't. And the other thing, too, Ole Miss nearly doubled LSU in penalties and penalty yards. Ole Miss had 14 penalties for 109 yards in this game, and LSU couldn't overcome that. Something's going on. It's not right, and I'm back to that feeling where with LSU where it's just okay, something doesn't smell right here. What's going on? Why isn't this all put together? Because as you mentioned, they do have the pieces everywhere where this all should fit and mesh nicely to look like one of the best teams in the country. And right now, it looks like we just obvious. This just all just comes back to just how much we and everyone overrated Clemson, and how much that game people took out of, where it's just oh no, Clemson just has some big time problems that other teams can take advantage of.
Yep. The bloom continues to come off the rose from that win. I think we were pretty excited about that win. Coming out of week one, it's wow, that's a big statement for this team, and it's No, still kind of waiting on them to really truly kind of build off of that. Some games with just inefficient offensive performances that obviously had Brian Kelly on tilt, and here's just the latest example thereof. Not even being able to get like 260 yards of offense against Ole Miss. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Clemson didn't even play this past weekend, and they're still catching strays from us. So I just want to just put that in the rear view there and not even think about Clemson anymore because they just make me mad every single week. But anyways, moving on, we will go to the ACC though. A wild game Friday night there in Charlottesville as Virginia, with possibly the greatest field storming ever, beats FSU in overtime. These Friday night games, John, have been incredible this season. I don't know what it is or if it's just a recency bias, but I don't remember Friday nights being this insane like they've been this year, especially this past week where we had the Florida State game, Florida State going down, and then we had the Arizona State TCU game later on as well, which was awesome. But incredible stuff on Friday. But let's bring it back here. Grill it or chill it. Florida State is now more dangerous for Miami this week off of a loss than they would have been if they had beaten Virginia.
The framing of this one is tough to sort out, just because I think they would have, regardless, I feel like they would have been able to give Miami a game. But yeah, coming off of a loss like that, I think is going to make them all the more kind of locked in for this particular game. And, there's so much less margin for error now for this Florida State team that was going to kind of have to fight for its right to be within the CFP rankings and everything like that. So I think that they are a little bit more of a live wire coming into this game against Miami now that they dropped that one at Virginia.
Yeah, I'll grill that too. I was thinking about taking Miami this week, and right now I'm backing off. I don't know, 4.5, 5.5 feels like a little much. Florida State going to kind of be backed into a corner here this coming week. But man, I know that was a tricky spot against Virginia, short week on the road. But if you can't get stops against Chandler Morris, when it matters, you think you're going to be able to do that against Miami's offense and Carson Beck with how they've looked so far? Miami, by the way, guys, minus 105 to win the ACC right now. They are separating themselves, and I'm expecting that price will be nowhere near minus 105 if they do beat Florida State coming up this week in Week 6. All right, a couple more grill it or chillets for you. Let's talk about Dante Moore a little bit more. Dante Moore, now your Heisman favorite. He's your front runner here through 5 weeks. Dante Moore will win the Heisman Trophy this season. Grill it or chill it.
I think I'm grilling it. I was
okay.
So I was in the great state of Massachusetts this week, and I was over the weekend, and I was unable to get a Dante Moore for Heisman bet in before that game, because I'm sure the odds would have been much nicer than what they are now, where it's plus 750, something like that. But he's got a signature win. He's obviously kind of the reason why Oregon is looking like one of the best teams in the country so far. He's not a product of his environment. He's really doing the damn thing out there. So I think, we got a couple more potential, statements for him or spots to really kind of pad those numbers and get Heisman caliber type of production out there. But going to Happy Valley like that and winning that game in double overtime, that's sort of a Heisman moment right there. And I think, he's rightfully the leader in the clubhouse, and it's going to take, like Carson Beck or Ty Simpson to have some more moments of their own before they can really catch up to him.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Dante Moore because I'm very impressed with him. And yes, that was an incredible win Saturday night and an absolute moment. But I'm going to chill this just for the sole fact that it feels like we're just basically just scrambling the entire board every single week when it comes to the Heisman. Like someone else is going to have a monster week. It could be Carson Beck this time around against Florida State. So I'm going to chill it just because I think there's so many more chapters here in this Heisman book of the year 2025 where it very well might be more, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I would not knock anybody for trying to grab him at a 7.5, 8-1 right now. But I don't know. I think somebody else is going to emerge here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be talking about them too, just because we've been talking about somebody different every single week. So I'm going to chill it just for that sole reason.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a carousel up at the top. I mean, we had Nuss as the Heisman favorite at one point earlier this year. So, yeah, things do change in a hurry, but, strong foothold through 1 month for Dante Moore to question.
Absolutely. All right, last one, staying in the ACC. This was your contribution here to our list. Georgia Tech will be undefeated going into the final game of the season. Grill it or chill it?
I'm going to grill this because you look at what's ahead of this Tech team. They host Virginia Tech. They go to Duke. They host Syracuse. They go to North Carolina State. They go to Boston College, and they host Pitt. Now, I know it's kind of a weird time to be talking about Tech with glowing optimism because they had to escape by the skin of their teeth against arguably the worst ACC team in Wake Forest, but I take that as a bit of like a wake-up call more than anything. Like they really had to fight and scratch and claw to get back into that game. You know, Wake Forest was kind of taking it to them early on. They got up off the mat. They showed some toughness doing that on the road, sleepy environment. We've seen, you know, teams slip up in similar spots before. So I give them a lot of credit for being able to escape Winston-Salem with a win, and I think that this upcoming schedule is soft enough to where, I think that there is a chance that the Tech is undefeated going into the last week of the regular season.
Yeah, I'll grill this too, just looking at this schedule here, and I'm loving that I'm probably going to cash my over 7.5 ticket with ease, hopefully here in like early November on Georgia Tech here. But yeah, no Florida State, no Miami, no Louisville coming up. Like, yeah, I'll grill this just because look at the schedule. Nobody on this schedule coming up here scares me of knocking off Georgia Tech, especially because that Pittsburgh game is in Atlanta and not up in Pittsburgh. If those were flipped, maybe a little different. But, sure. Yeah, I like the way this sets up here for Georgia Tech. I'm grilling it with you.
Nice.
All right, very good. Okay, it's time. Monday Cope, Monday Smoke. Who's on the couch this week, John? Who are we analyzing?
We got to start with the dogs, of course. And I'm coping. Yep. Actually, I'm not really coping that much. I've reached that kind of final stage of
acceptance
of grief. Yeah, I've accepted it. Like I said, I've Pedro Martinez. The Yankees are my daddy. Like, no, Alabama. If I'm a Georgia fan that's coping, the best thing I can say is you probably don't have to lose to Alabama again this year. Probably not going to have to play them again in the SEC championship game. So much lowered probability of having to deal with that hurt once again. You're just going to have to deal with this one for another year or so until they square off again next season. So, yeah, I wish I had something better to say for my fellow dogs out there, but it just kind of is what it is. Alabama is our daddy. Penn State. You got a month to flush this one before the Ohio State game. You failed your first big test, but you know what you need to work on a little bit more now over these next few weeks to get ready and be just kind of singularly focused here on that Ohio State game in early November. So there's still a decent amount of season in front of you. If you're Penn State, you got to get the stink off of you as far as like these big game concerns and shortcomings go. But I think that you got to learn from this. It's a tough lesson to learn, but I'm not completely shutting the door on Penn State, but they're going to have to hold up their end of the bargain. And then for Florida State, my cope is just like you fell for the trap. Like you fell for the trap, but like you are able to kind of get it back immedely. Like if we're sitting here a week from now and they've just beaten Miami, who even cares about the Virginia loss? Like there's always, especially in the expanded playoff, there's always going to be teams that can qualify that have like a real kind of head scratching type of loss. So
12-0 doesn't exist anymore. I feel like it's 10-2, 11-1 if you can even get to that at this point.
Exactly. So like there is that cushion, that margin for error. So if they do get that win over Miami this weekend, then I think that pretty much all is forgiven. And if they got to kind of root for Virginia now moving forward, so that there's that loss ends up looking better as the season progresses. I think Virginia is actually pretty solid. I saw they're ranked like 24th now, so that loss isn't going to end up looking as bad as say like if Florida State lost to say like a Wake Forest. That would be a lot less excusable.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree with you there on those three, for sure. I mean, I would probably throw LSU on there as well because, I don't know. I wouldn't be feeling too good if I'm an LSU Tigers fan right now on this Monday.
Yeah, I don't know what the cope for them would be, really. Like, that's sort of why I left them off. It's just like
we're going to get healthy, maybe. Like if we get healthy, this should be better, but, it kind of feels like like issues are still popping up with this team. We'll see. They like we've talked about, and like you said, all the pieces are there. They just have to figure out where to plug them in. Like pretty much that jigsaw puzzle at this point.
Yeah, they have too much talent, especially in the receiver room, to be having Nuss throw for under 200 yards in a given week. Like that's just, you can't have that. But moving on over to my Monday smoke, on the other side of that game, if you're Ole Miss, statement made. Lane, like you're saying, posting out there like an absolute maniac. And I think for Ole Miss, it's a great sign for them that they didn't win pretty. Like they won a tough battle. It was low scoring. You win that game by 5 points, and your defense just really kind of keeps a lid on LSU. And I think over the course of this show, we've kind of maybe unraveled the idea that maybe this LSU offense isn't all that. But regardless, holding LSU under 260 yards of offense, super impressive stuff. So this Ole Miss team continues to kind of, they're not like this fun, like feel good story that is going to come crashing down like the way it was like with Chad Kelly or with Bo Wallace. Like it feels like they are legit, and that Kiffin has built something sustainable that they can win in multiple ways. So if you're Ole Miss, you're feeling great. For Bama, their smoke, Daddy's home. Like they can just go ahead and just cash in on their Athens real estate and the real estate that they have in the minds of Georgia's football program, because they're posted up in there completely rent free. So credit to the Tide. The Tide are Georgia's daddy, and it doesn't matter who the coach is, doesn't matter where the game is being played. Alabama owns Georgia, and that's all that I can really say about that. And I'm going to toss to you here for our Notre Dame smoke here. You got Sam Pittman fired. Rude.
Pour one out. I know, but at the same time, we did get somehow in this weird world that we live in, Bobby Petrino is once again the head coach in Arkansas. So
blessings.
It's just a full circle all the way around. Notre Dame. I mean, like I don't want to beat my chest too much because they beat a team they should wipe the floor with, but still, with how this year has played out so far, it was very good to see. And I talked a little bit last week about how this game could go a long way towards just like easing that like anxious feeling I have in my stomach watching this team. But basically the way I would sum this up for Notre Dame was this was gas pedal to the floor, and that's how they have to play from here on out. They need to start racking up blowout wins, kind of like they did a year ago. I feel a little bit the way I felt last year when they just like pantsed Purdue in front of everybody. Like that's kind of what this game was like. And what was really nice to see, John, was that they fed their two stud running backs finally through 3 quarters in this game. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, I think, had 33 touches, 250 all-purpose yards, and 6 touchdowns through 3 quarters. Like, get those two the ball. It's awesome to see. And then the other thing too, like I'm getting more and more excited about CJ Carr by the week. Like the kid looks legit. I mean, Dan Wetzel, who does College Game Days podcast, said like as of right now, he's the number 1 pick in the 2027 NFL draft. Like the way he looks, I think that's some pretty big praise. I don't know if I'm fully there yet. But like Carr looks awesome and totally in control, and like Denbrock has finally figured out some pieces on this offense. The fake punt was awesome. The screen passes were great finally. Like everything just clicked on Saturday down there in Fayetteville, as it should. And this is what I expect to see going forward here for the rest of the season, because I don't know if you look at the rest of Notre Dame's schedule and how the chips are falling and stuff like that, they're probably not going to have that marquee win where it's just going to be like, okay, if you get to the end of the season, you're 10-2, but you have a bunch of blowout wins, and then your 2 losses are potentially to like the ACC champion and the SEC maybe runner-up or third SEC team by a combined 4 points. Okay, then we can have that discussion that maybe, you are one of the best 12 teams in the country.
Yeah, strong resume potentially here by the time that the season's over, if Notre Dame is able to go 10-2. But yeah, I continue to believe in this team as well. I think Carr's maturation and just like the shape of this offense is pretty promising. Having faced off against that Arkansas offense and kind of keeping a lid on them, are we just going to take the week off of ripping on Chris Ash? Or like I'm not expecting anyone to be like, hey, like Chris Ash he's got it fixed now, but are we just going to leave it be for the time being now?
We're going to put a pin in it. Like,
okay.
We're just going to, because like, we'll see. This could be, I don't know, this week coming up, like Boise State's could be a little funky. I don't know. I'm not really sure how I feel about this game going in, except for that Notre Dame should get theirs on offense. Like that Boise State should not stop Notre Dame like one bit. But I don't know. I think Arkansas still had like 360 yards, but I feel like there was a lot of garbage time in that. And then ultimately, though, the most important thing, they kept them off the scoreboard. Holding them to just 13 points was a good sign. So right now, we're okay. We're okay. Like, you can keep your office. Your nameplate's still on the wall, on the door there. I have not come through with my chisel to just get that off there and send you out on the street and like made Chris Ash an Indeed profile or anything like that yet. But right now, we'll calm down.
Okay. Very good.
So, all right, we got a few more minutes here. I don't want to go too long, but I do want to hit on a couple things because there were a couple of other spots that really just stood out. First one, USC falling to Illinois, walk-off field goal, 34-32 the final. John, USC under Lincoln Riley is now 0-12 against the spread outside of the state of California as a favorite. Shout out to the Bear, Chris Felica of Fox Sports for that stat. I mean, same old story right now with the Trojans. Like, I was starting to buy in a little bit. Like, Maava looked awesome. And, like, the offense still put up points, but they couldn't get stops when they needed to.
So, that's a Lincoln Riley team you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay, then yeah. Then what's surprising about that result? And
I thought it was different. I thought this year would be a little different.
I was ready to kind of take the plunge with them as well, but they go. Kudos to Illinois too for getting off the mat.
Yeah,
I mean they got fully embarrassed by Indiana and were able to bounce right back and get that nice win over USC. Impressive stuff, and like you're saying, like in a game where they had to put up points on their own part. I don't really tend to think of Illinois as a particularly explosive offense. I know that USC's defense can kind of help you look like that, but regardless, more of just that's just kind of who Lincoln Riley is at this point, and I still think that USC is very good, but I think they're like 9 wins good, not like 11.
Right. So Arizona State keeps getting the job done. They beat TCU. I mean, TCU just absolutely melted down at the end of that game Friday night.
That was a tough beat for your boy.
That was a tough one. And I had the over as well at 52.5, and I think we finished at 51. So that was really annoying as well in that one. But Kenny Dillingham, his squad, that's 9 straight Big 12 wins dating back to last season. They're 8-3 in one-score games since the start of last season. Like, I can see the warts and the cracks in the armor here with this team where, like, I do think eventually someone's going to be able to take advantage, like a Texas Tech or something like that. And this game at Utah coming up with them, too, is huge. But I don't know. Like, they just have that thing where, like, I don't know, Arizona State, they can hang around, and more often than not, they're going to get the job done, except if there's a bunch of, 60,000 cowbells ringing all over the place. Like, Levitt and Tyson looked awesome on Friday night.
Yeah, I think that was the best that tandem has looked all year. Like that's
Definitely.
sort of what we were coming into the year expecting them to need to have success, especially having lost Cam Scattaboo. It's like, all right, well, at least they got the Levitt-Tyson connection. It took a little bit to get off the ground here, but starting to click as we get into conference play. That's big time for the Sun Devils.
And finally, I mean, we can't go a show without talking about our Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Bulldogs come up just short. They were very pesky. They hung around. Back and forth game against Tennessee, who ultimately outlast Mississippi State down there in Starkville. Mississippi State did cover, though. That's 7.5. That was good for us. Just a wild, fun back and forth game. Ultimately, though, 2 defensive touchdowns for Tennessee really make the difference in this one here. They get both a pick six and a scoop and score. Blake Shapen making some costly turnovers there. Aguilar made some mistakes in this game. He turned the ball over a few times, but ultimately he did lead them down the field whenever when he needed to. But as I'm looking here going forward with Tennessee, like this team, I do think they're going to trip up. And as you look at their schedule coming up here for October, home against Arkansas, which will be Bobby Petrino's first game as a coach. Could be an interesting line there to back Arkansas. At Bama, at Kentucky, home against Oklahoma, and by that time, John Mateer should be back.
Right. So I think that there's Yeah, I think they will lose at Alabama, and I could see them losing against the Sooners as well. So I like this Tennessee team well enough, but I do think that they're like kind of in that big second tier cluster as far as the SEC goes. I will say one of the best receiving cores in college football, though, Mike Matthews, former 5-star, and Chris Brazell, those guys are absolutely feasting every single week. So that's it's something that's going to be able to kind of keep Tennessee in those games that are a little bit more like a coin flip, like the one against Bama or against OU. But I like stop a little bit short on Josh Heupel. I think generally is where I come down on it. I think this Tennessee team's very talented, but something about Heupel, I can't quite trust it. Maybe it's just because he looks like adult Bobby Hill or something, but something about it.
Fair enough. All right, so before we go, we did go 8-8 last week on our card. We do finish down 0.7 of a unit. We're 28-34-2 for the season. Trying to we're treading water at this point. We need one of these good weeks that are just going to swing things back in the other direction here, and maybe week 6 is that week, John. I do want to throw one game here for us on the card already. I'm going to go under 49.5 in Navy and Air Force. Service Academy game means you got to look at that under, guys. Dating back to the 2006-2007 season, Service Academy unders 45-11-1. And that's according to covers, by the way, which is like an absurd 80% cover rate. So let's just take the under here and hope that these two teams really just slow each other down. But that's what I got so far for my card for Week 6. Anything that you want to add here on this Monday before lines move too much?
I'm looking at Wake getting 6.5 at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is terrible. There's a reason why Brent Pry got fired. I don't think that's going to fix or salvage their season in any appreciable way. I know that Wake Forest is kind of coming off that tough emotional loss, and I want to say Robbie Ashford got a little bit dinged up in that one, so pay attention to his status. But I think that Wake getting that many points is a good spot. I think I would take them, anywhere to 4.5 or something like that. So them at plus 6.5 against the Hokies, I'm good with that. And then I like the Terps getting 5.5 at home against Washington. We've talked about it.
Yep.
Pretty much all fall as it comes to these West Coast teams traveling east. I think that's a long trip for the Huskies. They just got kind of beat up a little bit by Ohio State over the weekend. Maryland on the other side of that, coming off of a bye and playing well. I think the Terps are lively here. I might right my wrongs from the Wisconsin game and maybe entertain the idea of Terps winning that one outright.
All right, very good. But we'll put in that 5.5, plus 5.5 for now. We did mention on Thursday, too, that the dead cat bounce games with those teams coming off of just firing their coaches, those teams all did go 3-0 against the spread. And Virginia Tech won outright, too, by the way. So maybe wait and see when that Arkansas line comes out against Tennessee next week and see what you're getting there for points. But I do like the strategy of now fading some of those teams like we're doing with Virginia Tech on the second week there where they don't have that bounce, if you would. They flatlined at this point. So.
Bingo.
All right, very good. That's going to do it for us. Your Week 5 recap and reaction. We'll be back on Thursday with our Week 6 preview. For John, I'm Dan. This is College Football Tailgate. Hit that subscribe button, and we will talk to you guys later this week.